This is Larry Jordan, the host of the Digital Production Buzz. The following interview is an excerpt from a recent program. To hear the entire program, visit digitalproductionbuzz.com. Pilar Alessandra is the director of the popular writing workshops On the Page and author of the Coffee Break Screenwriter. She teaches screenwriting, pitching, and story analysis at workshops around the world. And as a script consultant, Pilar has helped thousands of writers create, refine, and most importantly, sell their scripts. Hello, Pilar. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
What got you started writing scripts?
My background is not as a writer. My background is as a story analyst. And I started as a script reader when I was in my 20s, reading for Amplin Entertainment, and then as senior story analyst when it became DreamWorks.
Now, what does reading mean?
A script reader is somebody who is probably the first person to look at a script when it's submitted to a studio, and that person then figures out what kind of a script it is, what its strengths and weaknesses are, and whether or not it will make a good film.
So you were the gatekeeper, preventing most people from having a successful script.
Yes, my husband's nickname for me is Crusher of Dreams, or at least it was before I started teaching. It's one of the reasons I started teaching, actually, so I could actually help.
Well, Crusher of Dreams is definitely a statement, that's
You can
for
just
sure.
call me Crusher. It's all right.
Now, from there you went to an analyst. What's the difference between a reader and an analyst?
Well, a story analyst is a reader. So that was my background. I was a story analyst. The nickname for them is readers. As a script consultant, which is what I do now, I work one-on-one with writers, really helping them with their individual scripts so that when they get to those doors, those gates that are kept, their scripts are in really good shape and people will be more open to them.
Well, as a reader, before you started your own company, what was the one thing you noticed about the scripts you were looking at?
Well, I think it was one of the reasons I became a teacher was I kept seeing certain things that were really popping off the page and making people excited about a script. And then I would see certain things that made them put it down, made them get bored, made them sort of pass it, basically give the script a pass.
For instance?
Well, I think always there's that idea of the unique idea. If they were excited about the writing, but it was an idea they'd seen 1,000 times, unfortunately it was a pass. But that also didn't mean that it couldn't be an idea we've maybe seen, let's say, a bank robbery movie. But if there was a twist on the idea, if there was a fresh take on the idea, that also excited them. So seeing what writers did to spin even tropes that we know and make them new, that was something that I started seeing and some of the things that I started adding to classes.
So which came first, becoming a story consultant or writing a book?
Believe it or not, teaching and consulting, because I think teaching teaches you, and I was able to see what tools I was teaching my writers that were actually helping in the moment and helping them make their scripts better. And that was a great test for what would work in the book. I think almost like somebody who's doing a cookbook, you have to test out the recipes first.
Well, what are some of the techniques that writers need to keep in mind to make their script sellable?
Well, a lot of what I teach in class, when we get to the rewrite stage, has to do with editing, and you probably know that better than anybody else, that economy is everything. And often in a first draft, people have put their entire brain on a page, and that can be exciting that first time around, but you have to sort of chip away and get to what the focus of the scenes are, what the real story is, and that takes some craftsmanship.
Is it that they're writing too many words and they're not letting the visuals breathe, or is it that they're trying to prove that they've done their research?
I think it's a little of both. I think you really nailed it. Sometimes it is just over choreography, right? So instead of saying, she takes a drink of water, it would be her arm reaches out, her hands grasp the glass, she raises it to her mouth, she takes a sip of water instead of she drinks a glass of water. So too much choreography. But you're right, sometimes it's the research where they want to show off what they know, and what they know may have nothing to do with the story.
I've been watching a series from England called Foyle's War, which is set in the time around the World War II. And one of the comments they made is that the lead actor kept saying, take out words, let me do more gestures, let me do more facial expressions, let me say less. And for writers where you think everything has to be written on the page, taking out a word and putting in a gesture is a very dangerous thing because you don't exactly know what that gesture is. How do you encourage writers to write visually as opposed to write orally?
Well, I think what I usually say is it's actually more powerful. You know, you write in that action, suddenly the camera is close on that action. You're expressing more than you could ever express in a line of dialogue. So try it. Take out that line of dialogue, replace it with an action, and suddenly you are, in a sense, directing your movie without the director knowing he's being directed.
And for a much smaller budget.
Right, exactly.
Well, we've seen that we want to not write too much. We want to have as close to an original idea as we can or a unique spin on an existing idea.
Yes.
What else do we need to do to make our scripts successful? Because I know there's about 800 million scriptwriters in LA that are trying to figure out how to get their script to sell.
I would say be brave and commit. I think there is too much rule chasing. People, they dig into every book in the world and then they try and follow some kind of formula that book lays out. I mean, I wrote my own book. I don't want you to follow my formula. I want you to use it as a guide when you're stuck. But you have to commit to your vision and your way of telling a story and not try and be a people pleaser on the page. That makes for really wishy-washy storytelling.
So it sounds like you have to trust your own voice.
Absolutely.
So we now need to pitch our idea to somebody that's not the reader.
Right.
How do we pitch it to get their attention without, hitting them in the head with a hammer?
Well, this idea of a log line, it usually drives writers to drink. But basically, it's a one-sentence depiction of your main idea. It's one sentence. So if you can start with that one sentence, if you're getting the about in one sentence, what is your script actually about? And there's some kind of hook within that sentence, you've done half your pitching job. Get a really strong log line out. So the next time somebody says, what's your script about? You can say, it is about this with confidence, and even that one line gets their attention.
Norman Holland, who teaches at the USC Film School, was the one that introduced me to the log line first when he and I were working on a series of programs about 5 years ago. And he said that it's more than just the plot. He said it's got to be both the plot and the emotional core of what your script is about. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. If you were going to pitch like a real hardcore comedy like Ted, okay, you could just say it's about a man and a talking teddy bear. But what's really more important is it's that a man has trouble parting ways with his talking teddy bear. That's the emotional core. So now you've got the hook, the teddy bear that talks, and the emotional core has trouble parting ways.
A lot of what we've been talking about is writing scripts for fiction, feature films or episodic television. Is there a different way to write scripts or a different attitude you need to have if you're writing for reality or documentaries or nonfiction? Or is the process the same?
Well, the process isn't necessarily the same, but standing back and asking what is the story you're trying to tell is equally important. Reality, but it's reality. It's not scripted. Well, you need a point of view going in. You need an angle going in. So what's your thesis about this real world expressed in that log line? And then can you find in your series of shots those shots that back up that thesis and tell that story?
So let's see. We've got the pitch. What do we need to do to convince people to buy our script? It needs to be sellable. So what does it take to be sellable?
I think sellable is often confused with very Hollywood and very slick. I would go back to this idea of something fresh, a fresh voice, a fresh take, a character we've never seen, location a set piece, the idea that you're having something really active and extraordinary and using the location in an interesting way. All those things make people excited, and when it's excited, they want to buy it. Okay, so I would say something unique and fresh, that's sellable.
So now let's go back to the beginning of writing a script. Are we outlining everything first? Are we writing a key scene around which we're going to build? How do you suggest people do the process of the first draft?
Well, it's kind of funny that you said both of those things, because some people are sort of outside in kind of people. They outline, right? And then they add the scenes and they add the dialogue from that outline. They work that way. But some people are the other people that you just mentioned. They see scenes, right? They see dialogue first, and they're inside out kind of people. And I would say whatever way gets you through it. But I would say that it's not a bad idea to think big picture about just what are your goals for the story. By the end of the story, what needs to be accomplished in terms of where does the character need to end up, in terms of, thematically, what do you want to hit, what are the relationships that need to have developed, and do a little working backwards to get the big picture. That can be your sort of overall outline, and then go in and do all the fun stuff.
I had a conversation with another script consultant at last week's show, and as we were talking, I said, when a script is bought, the script gets rewritten, and then rewritten again, and then rewritten probably a third and fourth time, and then flogged to death. How much time do we spend into the script that we're going to be selling when we know it's going to be rewritten by 17 different people other than us before it ever gets made into a film?
That's why I'm not a big proponent of overwriting your script, of over rewriting your script. I do believe that scripts need a rewrite, and then they need another rewrite, and you need to get to a place where you have met your own intentions when you started out. But once you get there and you feel confident about your script, by all means, kick it out of the nest. Because of what you just said, there are going to be 17 rewrites by people who actually pay you to do it. So give it a little breathing room. Don't make it so perfect that you don't have any room for change.
As I look at my notes, I realize that one of the ways you earn your living is as a script consultant. I happen to have this incredible script right here that I'm going to sell you. I want to hire you as a consultant.
Okay.
What do you need from me before you even start consulting? And what should I expect from you when you come on board to give me a hand?
I need a script where I feel like you have done everything that you can do. You've taken it as far as you can take it. When people give me scripts that they're sort of like, well, I planned on doing this and I wanted to do that, but I wasn't sure, then you're wasting your money, because I'm just telling you what you know. So I need somebody to have it to have been rewritten to the point where they really just need somebody to have that other eye. Then what I do is I do a very thorough read. I'll tell you what I think your intentions are and where I believe those intentions are being met or where you're straying. And then I'll show you where those things are in the script, and we'll also work together to doctor those moments so that you're actually making your script better in the process. I will give you suggestions as to how to fix things.
How do you set your fees?
I set my fees, it's so funny. I set my fees on a gut level as to what I could afford and I feel is fair. I don't believe in overcharging people, and I think that's why I have a pretty full calendar. If you do want to consult with me, I'm booked currently till January.
So my script has to wait?
You have to, but there's, we got to rush things and waiting lists and all kinds of stuff. Plus, I really like you, so, maybe jump over the list a little.
How much time do you give me?
You mean as a consultant?
As a consultant.
It's usually about 90 minutes. It's on the phone or in person or by Skype, but it really depends on what a script needs.
So really, you're not helping me rewrite it. I think of you more as a critique. It's an informed critique of what the script is.
It's an informed critique, but I am bringing you to very specific places in the script so that I can show you where those things happen and also give you suggestions for rewriting. But if I actually went in and started rewriting with you, that's where things get a little wonky, because this has to be yours.
So would I then do a rewrite and then bring you back in for another look at it? Or
it depends on if you need it. I'm not into taking money when I don't need to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes people do. I do have a lot of repeat clients, and then they bring lots of scripts to me. And what's nice too is just watching them get better and better and better and better. That's been fantastic over the years. Same thing with my students. And with my students, what's so great is I get to watch that happen in the 5 minutes of time I've given them to just write something. That's incredible.
In the little bit of time we've got left, what trends are you seeing in scripts that are becoming sold? What's a hot genre?
Well, it's funny. The minute something's hot and you chase it, by the time you get there, it's cold, right? So and I'm not the person who's buying it, but I will say, just as somebody who watches a lot of TV and movies, I'm very excited about the fact that there seem to be female leads not only on the small screen, the TV's been doing much better with that for a long time, but now on the big screen too. We've got Spy and Hunger Games and Gravity and Wild, and suddenly Hollywood doesn't seem to be scared of women anymore. So that seems like a trend that I really hope sticks around, and I think is going to make movies better.
So when's your next workshop?
My next workshop is actually this weekend. It's Saturday and Sunday. It is a 2-day rewrite intensive, but you can come in even if you don't have a first draft. It will just give you techniques that will make your writing stronger overall, so you can come in at any stage in the process.
And where on the web can we learn more about you and sign up for a workshop?
Sure. It's onthepage.tv.
That's all one word, on the page, onthepage.tv. And Pilar Alessandra, I got to get the first name correct. Pilar Alessandra is running On the Page. Pilar, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.